Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of 100 Yards of Football and Sports Talk Radio. I'm your host and producer of this afternoon, Logan Landers. Joining me here today to talk about the Georgia Bulldogs and their impact on football, my guy from the Elite Sports and Entertainment Network, Jay McLovin. Jay, how you doing, my friend? And talk about Georgia and just how well they've done here in the last handful of seasons, because what a run they have went on.
Yeah, absolutely. I know we want to speak, I guess, specifically on Kirby Smart and his impact on the NCAA.
Yeah, man.
I'm going to do that with that. But when it comes to the NFL, I'm going to address Georgia, I think, as a whole, because they really have, even beyond Kirby Smart, had a really good impact on the NFL by and large. To start it off with the NCAA side of it, though, I think the biggest effect on the NCAA wasn't Kirby Smart. I think the biggest impact was the transfer portal and the NIL, because those were two of the biggest things, honestly, that really hampered Nick Saban. But I will say this, Kirby Smart, what I like about him and what makes him so good is we all agree, I think, that Nick Saban is the best college coach that the NCAA has ever seen. And that's a hard thing when you figure Paul Bear Bryant, Urban Meyer and all the other, great greats that have come before that, Pete Carroll, Matt Brown, so forth. That's big company to say that Nick Saban's the best. And then, so if he really is the best, if you want to be the best, you got to beat the best. And his assistant, Kirby Smart, is the first Saban assistant to ever beat the master. So that right there says a lot about Kirby Smart, the fact that he beat the master, and he's still beating the master. And because, Nick Saban, we all know, was the king of the living room. Well, that's no longer the case. When I was looking at draft classes and things like that, first thing I want to point out is that Georgia with Stetson Bennett and company got back-to-back titles in 21 and 22. That in and of itself is a huge impact on the NCAA. And then when you look at recruiting classes, they had the number one recruiting class in 2024. Guess it was number two. That's right. It was Bama. They came in second place in 2023. That was the year that Bama actually had the number one class. In 2022, they had the third place in terms of recruiting class. And then in 21, they had the fourth best recruiting class. So clearly, Kirby has done a really, really good job since 2021. Really getting good recruiting classes coming in here to fill out that Georgia Bulldogs roster. And as of May of 2024, 62 former players were on active NFL rosters. So let that sink in for me. Kirby Smart has not only developed his players to get them ready for the NFL, which is a huge impact, but also he's had back-to-back titles. He's beaten the Zen Master and has had a lot of great recruiting classes. That's a lot. And he's still going strong. This guy's not slowing down by any means. You know what I'm saying? So I think he's had a huge impact on the NCAA and where they're going to go from here. Under Smart, in terms of the impact on the NFL, when you look at Smart, he has recruited top 3 talent and developed players for a very long period of time. Some of the guys obviously would be Javon Bullard, Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, N'Kobe Dean, Stetson Bennett, Keely Ringo, Kamari Lassiter, Roquan Smith, Trayvon Walker. And then when you look at just the Georgia as a whole, now you're looking at Nick Chubb, Brock Bowers, Zamir White. And then you look at Andreas Mims, Sony Michel, Quay Walker, just to name a few. And for crying out loud, half of the damn Philadelphia Eagles defense is freaking Georgia damn Bulldogs.
You're not wrong.
I'm just trying to tell you, Georgia has had a huge impact on the NFL if you haven't figured it out. And Kirby Smart in and of itself has had a huge impact on the NCAA. The only thing that's had more of an impact than him and Nick Saban on the NCAA is the NIL. and the transfer portal. And unfortunately, even the Zen master can't master those two things like Kirby Smart has done. So kudos to Kirby Smart and the Georgia Bulldogs. I hope you lose because I still want my Texas team to win.
You had to throw a shot in there at the end, didn't you?
I throw a little bit in there. Now Texas is SEC, Oklahoma is SEC. So Logan, you and me, we're gonna start doing some head-to-heads.
I know I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be some fun, friendly competition. Of course, it's gonna be a fun time. But just to give my 2 cents on this topic, and I know the fans in Athens, which I'm not too far away from here. I'm about an hour away from Athens, so no pitchforks and angry messages for us today. Yeah, I mean, you said it good, man. Kirby Smart has really taken over the reins of college football. You could argue the last 5 years. He came into Georgia in the time where Georgia was always good, where they had good teams, right, under Mark Richt and company. They had some solid teams and lineups and good games, good moments, but they were always that little brother, Jay, always that little brother, and couldn't win the big one, couldn't beat Bama. It was always tough matchups. But then once they hired Kirby Smart, you saw things start to change. You saw the culture start to shift. You saw they would play a little bit harder, that they would win some of the games they used to lose under previous head coaches. And this team, in terms of just college, we know the back-to-back national championships. We know how dominant those seasons were. My gosh, those were tremendous years. And I remember, we've said on the show here, with me and Vincent, we talked about just how good that Georgia defense was for that 2-year stretch. Me and you on the Elite Sports Entertainment Network, we've talked about how good that defense was and how it's not just probably the best defense we're going to see this decade, but it's going to be some of the best defense we've ever seen. Because they were allowing very little points to all these big-name teams. Teams you thought were going to go in there and it was going to be a shootout. They were giving up 7 to 10 points to on a weekly basis. Just pure domination. Like you said, God, the amount of players that have been drafted in the last handful of seasons from this school to the NFL, first-round talent as well, but in general, is insane. And like I said, we're not going to talk about how they've done the NFL, because some of them better than others, obviously, but the fact that they were all picked for the most part in the draft to go to these teams because they saw just how good they played at the school is phenomenal.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think you said it. The thing that really took Georgia over the top and made them the powerhouse they are today, and the reason why they won the back-to-back national championships, and the reason why they're primed, to always at least be in contention like they were. They didn't win it last year, but they're still a really good team last year, and they're looking good again this upcoming season for 24-25, is the transfer portal, NIL deals. They have embraced it. They have said, okay, we know this is new, that players are going to start getting paid some more. That's fine by us. We'll pay you all the money. If you want to be on a magazine cover, sure. If you want to sponsor, this coffee, here, go ahead. If you want to go out here and be the face of this local golf cart brand, go right ahead, buddy. We're all for it.
Right.
And that is the key, Jay.
Yeah.
Because money talks, as you know. Money talks.
It does.
And that's why they were getting, that's why they get some of the best guys from the transfer portal. That's why they get guys in recruiting classes now from these top-tier high schools across the globe who want to come to Georgia, not just because the money's good, because it's a Division I SEC caliber school. It's a team with legacy. We all know that Georgia's always had a good program for the most part. It's because just that's how this team has been marketed and really shaped itself in the last couple of years under Kirby Smart. And like I said, I know we're talking a lot about Kirby, but it's really just the entire team. It's the whole brand of Georgia. and how they went from, a team that had some good teams, were solid, to just these absolute killers on defense.
Right.
I mean, they became a team that, okay, they're good on both sides of the ball, to, all right, we're going to drop kick you in the face and we're going to stomp on you while we do it. That's the aggression that they kind of play with now under Coach Kirby. I mean, obviously it's paid off for the team with the championships. It's paid off for Kirby with the amount of money he's getting paid now. And I think it's well-deserved. The dominance that they've had on the sport, the amount of talent that they've had come through these schools, and also just the system throughout that they've had, right? The coordinators who were able to get them in the right spot to have this super quick just overturn of guys who were in the league who would leave and then bring on a new one and a new one. And the fact that you could just slide them in and it would work. I mean, and I never want to discredit this, because it's hard to undermine just how impressive it is. They won a national championship, Jay, with a walk-on quarterback.
Yeah. Yeah.
They won a national championship with a guy who wasn't even the starter at the beginning of the year, that no one even knew who he was. That's whenever we're doing team previews, he'd be your third quarterback who you wouldn't even mention.
Right.
We can't.
And now it's funny because now they're grooming him, and everybody is. And Sean McVay is all loving Stetson Bennett to the point where he could be the guy that actually replaced Stafford. How crazy would that be?
Next guy up, yeah, of course. But the fact that you were able to take a team where no one even knew who the heck Stetson Bennett was you mentioned the 30-plus players on defense that they've had over the years. We could do a whole show just naming them, let alone talking about what they've done.
Right.
How they've all went to the NFL. And like I said, just the way that they've been able to essentially dominate anyone and everyone.
Right.
Like I said, they have their bumps in the road, of course, as all teams do. No team is perfect. But you can't go into a college football season now, and I don't think you really can until Kirby Smart hangs up his clipboard, and not see Georgia as a threat to, if not win a national championship, if not be in the college football playoff, which we know has expanded now. So I think it feels like it's a lock that Georgia is going to be in there if all things go right. But, to be in SEC championship games, that's just the level that they've built this team up to. And that's as you mentioned, the transfer portal, the NIL deals, they've been, if not the best, and one of the best in the country at welcoming that and accepting that. That's why players are coming there. And from all accounts, man, it seems like Kirby Smart, he can be tough, as all coaches are. He can be a little tough, a little ruffle the feathers, but he commands respect, Jay.
Right.
But it's earned and it's given, because those players, they have a track record now of, you come here, you put the work in, you get a lot of wins. You play in big stadiums, you get money from the NIL deals, and if you show out, if you're good enough, you'll get drafted to a team in the NFL. And majority of those players you mentioned are starters for teams.
Absolutely.
They're not just riding the pine. Those are starters for teams. So I think that Georgia's impact on football, much like you mentioned earlier with Nick Saban in Alabama, like how they were in the late 2000s, early 2010s, we're seeing that again now. But this time, it's not in Tuscaloosa. It's in Athens. I think that Georgia has had a tremendous impact on the game, and I think they will for many years to come. Jay McLovin, man, appreciate you coming on the show. Talking some Georgia football, talking about the impact they've had. College football is right around the season. I know the first day of summer is today, technically, which means time to go out there, get your hot dog, get your grilling going, get your TV set up, get your nice speakers. If you're by a pool, go out there and relax. Because college football is right around the corner.
It is.
Preseason football right around the corner as well for the NFL. Of course, we're going to cover it all live here on the show at 100 Yards Football Sports Talk Radio. Once again, for Jay McLovin, thank you, my friend. I've been your host and producer, Logan.